You are not asleep. This is not a dream. This is really happening. This is your life. This is our country and our time. It is Wednesday, the 18th of December in the year 2019, and President Donald Trump is impeached.
I think this is huge for D.C. D.C. needed this. We got some asshole in the fucking White House right now.
Hello, everybody. You listen to Epotamus Unum. I'm Dan.
I'm Eitan.
And today, we are so happy to have our guest host again, Allison Green.
Hello, everybody.
On today's podcast, we'll be discussing where there is the smallest, tiniest, most minuscule chance that some Republicans might do the right thing. Spoiler alert. Don't get your hopes up.
No, that's the point. We shouldn't give up.
But first...
It was impeachment week.
It was.
And
yeah.
I got my rally on.
You did. Merry impeachment, by the way. We don't say happy impeachment. It's merry impeachment.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm giving you a Nancy Pelosi look right now
Yeah,
because you're not supposed to cheer.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, she
Yeah.
shut that shit down.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was
I mean, you have
look.
to. Well, I don't know. I'm of two minds because I thought that was a great message opportunity. There was one where Devin Nunes, where he says, yeah, this really happened, right? Boom, right there. Every goddamn congressperson could have went, oh, this also happened. And you can point to a million things that Trump has said, the racist shit he said, the sexist thing he said. You can bring up women talking about him raping them, and use his words, in the same way. I think
the fact that he's suing an imaginary cow.
Yeah. Him suing someone on Twitter
And
for that.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I think is super important to do, and which is a classic thing in debate and in rhetoric, is to take the exact words that people are saying and just jujitsu them and use them against them. And that was a perfect missed opportunity to do that in. I mean, like literally the same words.
And he's a Russian asset. Let's not forget that.
Oh, yeah.
He's like a little mini Trump with a cow.
Do you know that he has one of the lowest net worths of all of the Congress people?
No.
And so
Devin?
let me ask you, who is paying all of his lawyer bills? Because not only is he suing a cow, he's suing his mother on Twitter. There's a
right.
fake Devin Nunes mother.
Yeah.
His real mother? No, it's his fake mother.
Yeah, there's Devin Nunes' cow and Devin Nunes' mother on Twitter that he's suing.
So I think there's lawyers who are being paid in rubles here.
My dad sent me this tweet from George Conway,
Love him.
who says an update on IMPOTUS. So it's IMPOTUS, impeached president of the United States.
Absolutely. We got to be calling him the impotus. I mean, secondary, we've also changed 45 to 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Cult 45 is changing their name to just Cult.
3.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but impotus is so much better.
Impetus 3. Quick thing about impeachment, since it is impeachment week.
Yes.
Philip Bump had a piece in the Washington Post that shows how Trump can remain in office with senators that represent only 7% of the U.S. population.
I mean, it's crazy because you actually have someplace like Wyoming that has something less than 600,000 people. It's about 500,000 people in the whole entire state, and they have 2 senators. Yeah. And let me tell you, I probably have 500,000 people in a 20-block radius from where I live right here in New York City.
Where I'm from down in Brooklyn, there's like 600,000 people down on my block over there. Tito's Pizzeria. Sorry, I said it wrong.
And you know them all, don't you?
I know them all. Vito, Vinny.
Wyoming's one of the states that has 2 senators and 1 congressperson. So you know that they are definitely in a population deficit, if that's a very PC way of saying it.
But that's how
it's a shithole state, nobody wants to live there.
But that's how you get to the fact that they have representation where New York and California have so many more people and have the equal amount of senators.
Back in the old neighborhood, we had 2 senators too. 2 senators of the Gambino crime family. I knew them personally.
By the way, I want to say I've been to Wyoming. It is actually a beautiful state.
Very beautiful.
It is beautiful, but there are probably as many people in the Gambino crime family
Listen,
as there are in Wyoming.
I never went there and helped Vito dig people on the ground and bada bing, bada boom. Never
So
happened.
it's difficult because it is written into the Constitution of removal, but it is also very frustrating that as few as representatives of 7% of the U.S. population can still prevent the most corrupt and illegitimate president in history from being removed from office, which many Republicans want out as well. So,
Want out of what?
office
But the only way to change this,
is an amendment, unfortunately.
right? So I don't even see the point in really talking about it other than to pump up our audience, to get out there.
And that's important
and
because
vote. Yeah.
when people hear on news or wherever, like being a Democrat or a progressive is an uphill battle, the instinct I can see being, oh, okay, you're just upset because McConnell is the most cynical person on planet Earth. Donald Trump is the most corrupt person. And what McConnell did with Obama's justices and the graveyard of over 400 bills that have passed the House, et cetera, and Trump's nonstop corruption and lies and blah, 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 blah. But it is actually a fact. It is actually statistically a fact. And I did talk about this a little bit on...
Wait, what's the fact?
That being a progressive, it is actually harder to remain or maintain power as a progressive because institutionally and structurally, it is against us. The Electoral College is structurally against us. Senate, even removing a president is structurally against us.
The reality is that the Republican Party has been working on multiple levels and many facets to try and rig our system, and they figured out the Electoral College and how to work it for them a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with a little help from the Russians, that's all it took to get a few more thousands of people to just pull the lever for.
But don't forget gerrymandering, and don't forget
right.
Voter suppression. So that actually takes
But
me...
that's homegrown.
Yeah.
This impeachment is about foreign, interference.
Right. But so that's a good segue to the next point, which is literally just as we were about to record, news broke that Justin Clark, Trump's top re-election advisor, in a closed-door meeting with donors in Wisconsin, told them, his quote is, traditionally, it's always been Republicans suppressing votes in places. Yeah.
Why is this a thing? Why is confessing to crimes out in public? Why is that a thing? Because they have no consequences. That's why. Okay.
Absolutely. And,
Sorry, answered my own question.
Yeah, it was closed door. He didn't think he was being recorded. But this is kind of the smoking gun. Republicans are great with dog whistles and deniability, because they in many ways operate like mobsters. Oh, no, we're not racist or whatever. We're not gerrymandering. In fact, the guy who said, I specifically gerrymandered, 10 to 3 because I couldn't do 11 to 2. Do you remember I think it was in North Carolina. He was a Republican operative. But my point being that he said that because he wanted it on the record. He wanted it to be leaked that it was done for political reasons, which is legal according to the Supreme Court, and not racial reasons, which is illegal. Which, of course, in reality, it was, of course, racial.
Because the political party is racist.
Right.
That they're actually working for.
Of course. So when something like this leaks that says, we suppress votes, everybody knows that they suppress votes. Yeah. But what the Republicans say is, it's just Democrats and progressives being sore losers. No.
It wasn't there the guy who died as well. And the daughter found all of this stuff that basically gave all of these blueprints for how to suppress voters. You might as well be saying how to interfere with an election if Russia can't get us across the line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's another tranche coming out of emails and soon from her father. By the way, just side note here, did everyone hear that when asked about why Trump thought the conspiracy theory that Ukraine interfered and not Russia, do you remember what he said?
Well, Putin told me.
Of course, because that's
so
what
it must be true.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Maybe we should start using the phrase keep it moving, because we can't take these people seriously. So whenever someone brings up childish bullshit like this, we just say, you know what? That's a conspiracy theory. That's BS. We have business to take care of. We're going to keep it moving. We're not going to listen to your BS.
But there's another point here, too.
You can't take it seriously. Yeah.
There is another point that there are crimes actually happening out in the open. I mean, it also came out today that Trump is actually taking his fundraising dollars and diverting it to Senate campaigns. So it's like there are crimes happening so often. And
in real time.
I tweeted out this morning, I said, another day, another crime. We have to not make this normalized.
Absolutely.
So the argument is, when you're talking about voter suppression, we really need to look at the legalities of this in terms of we're a democracy with fair elections.
Absolutely. And it's jury tampering, it's jury bribery. And just in case anybody out there is saying, oh, you're just saying Republicans are criminals, you don't like Republicans. Well, Washington State Representative Matt Shea has been charged with domestic terrorism against the United States. This is a sitting state senator of Washington State.
But it's getting to the point where having an arrest record makes you a VIP in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
VIP GOP.
Yeah. And I apologize that I'm a little nasally today. It's cold. My nose has been running. Two other quick bits that we want to talk about was, speaking of white nationalism and domestic terrorism.
Hold on now. You're saying that like white nationalism is a bad thing. Like it's wrong to be proud of being white.
The phrase white nationalism has been cut from the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, to allow people to enter into the armed services. So the House had it in their bill. The Republican-led Senate took it out, and then unfortunately it died in reconciliation. For those of you who don't know, the NDAA is the annual authorization of the defense budget.
The whole budget, that has to be passed.
It's must-pass legislation, right?
I mean, the white nationalism and the racism that has been unleashed over the last 3 years, I don't even know how to describe how much it sickens me.
Absolutely. And for it, traditionally, a lot of white supremacists and neo-Nazis tend to seek out the armed services to get weapons training. I don't know if you remember earlier this year, federal authorities arrested a Coast Guard lieutenant for allegedly stockpiling weapons in preparation for a terror attack against mostly Democrats and liberals. And every year, hundreds and hundreds of these cases aren't reported or reported and nothing is done about, or the armed forces drag their feet on them.
I mean, this is something I've thought a lot about because we talk a lot about the intelligence community and how they're under attack by Trump. The military is under attack in a different way. And it almost feels as though he's been creating chaos. He's basically undermining the top level of the military. And it's like he's weaponizing another level of the military with pure racism. I get scared sometimes that he's just planning on them following him.
The white nationalism and racism within our armed services predates Trump.
Yes.
But he's kind of given it a wink and a nod and said, yeah, okay.
Well, but I'm actually wondering if Trump has a history of using and manipulating a situation for his purposes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That is called The Art of the Deal. Look it up. It's on sale right now on Amazon.com.
I think all of the copies are in Don Jr.'s office next to Trigger.
Yeah.
Who the hell invited this lady?
Okay. The last thing that we have to talk about, and this is a big one, this is an important one, is on the same day that the country voted to impeach the most corrupt and illegitimate president in history, Impetus 3.
Sticks and stones can
break your bone spurs.
Yeah.
Words hurt too. Words hurt too.
On the same day that the country, by the most votes in history, I should say.
And the first time that a president was impeached in his first term.
So on the same day, this same administration and the Repug Party came so much closer to achieving their goal of kicking millions of people off of healthcare through a 2-1 ruling in the Fifth Circuit Court. 18 Republican attorneys generals and governors, 2 individuals, and the Trump administration signed on to end the ACA. 2 of the 3 majority judges, one was a George W. Bush appointee, one was a Trump appointee. What they said was the individual mandate is unconstitutional, but the Fifth Circuit's going to kick it back down to the Texas district judge, Judge Reed O'Connor, who is also appointed by George W. Bush, who is a lunatic who just got the original case in front of us was like, this whole thing is unconstitutional and we're going to toss it out. And everyone kind of laughed at him. They're like, okay, some lunatic district judge, it's never going to work on appeal. But what the Fifth Circuit has done was say, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to say that the individual mandate is unconstitutional and kick it back down. And then you decide, Judge Reed, the lunatic, what can stand of the remainder of the ACA. So basically, he's going to try to dismantle the whole thing. He's already said that.
He's been trying for years.
If Democrats don't appeal to the Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court doesn't take it, which I think they should, it only takes 4 justices to approve it, then that would be the end, essentially, of the ACA, and millions upon millions of people will be kicked off of the healthcare, will get sick, will be bankrupt, and die.
People say that Trump has not achieved anything, but in actuality, he has spent the whole entire time trying to dismantle anything that Obama does. If it hadn't been nicknamed Obamacare, he might have been okay with it.
It just goes to show elections matter. And no, if you say they're all the same, then you should step in front of a bus and kill yourself and do the world a favor.
And we talk all the time about messaging, and one of the things is this is another missed opportunity, because the Democrats have said almost the number one priority for voters is healthcare, so they should be on the rooftops screaming about this, and they should be out screaming, they're taking away our healthcare as we speak. So this week was monumental when...
Something happened?
Yeah, a little something happened. Trump became the 3rd president ever to be impeached.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Impetus number 3.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And you know how he always loves to be first,
It's the biggest impeachment, the most votes. So.
I don't love to be first. I'm just first at everything. First in class, first in Harvard, everything.
You didn't go to Harvard, Trump.
Oh, please. See, again, fake news.
But you would have been first.
He may be impeached, but I'm already focused on whether Trump will be the first president, and I'm using air quotes here,
Fake president.
to be removed from office through impeachment. Removed being the key words, okay? I'm feeling a bit frustrated because I feel like I'm on an island all by my lonesome, because everyone's treating it like it's a foregone conclusion that the Senate won't ever remove him. I know. It's highly probable that he won't be removed. And everyone assumes that no Republicans will cross the line that hashtag Moscow Mitch Traitor McConnell has drawn. But I don't want us to be treating this like a foregone conclusion. I still have hope, and I don't want anybody to stamp out my hope. And I by the way, am sitting here with 2 cynics who are probably going to stamp out my hope.
Yeah, Dan and I have both read Dante's Inferno, so we know to abandon all hope.
Not cynics, but just like, it's like Casey Kasem said, keep your feet on the ground. But keep reaching for the stars.
I think the Senate Majority Leader's office, Mitch McConnell's office, has that plaque. Abandon all hope ye who enter here.
Are you kidding, or are you serious?
We'll never know.
No, because I could see him having that.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
By talking about an inevitable negative outcome, I just am concerned. Are we truly fighting as hard for our democracy as the current Trump threat level requires us to? I mean, this is it, guys. We're fighting for a democracy. And I just think, hey, shouldn't we be treating that as a fight for our lives? And I feel as though hope is the thing that fuels the fight. And I just don't see the fight.
Okay, so what can we do then? What can the minority or Chuck Schumer do to help cross 20 Republicans?
The healthcare vote of 2017, I really did not believe that they would actually be winning, that we would get 3 GOP across the aisle, but John McCain, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins did cross the aisle because of the demand of the people and because we raised our voices and we were vocal.
I think the difference here is that was about healthcare, which literally affects everyone. It's the kitchen table issue. It constantly is at the top of the list as far as issues that, the American people care about. It's usually number one. It's been number one for the past decade. Usually number one, not number two. So that's the reason why they were able. And now here's the thing. They only got like one or two senators to move over for something that's so crucial and just so existential, like someone's health. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when
life.
no, exactly. It's literally life or death, and the impeachment thing, when you look at how high it rates, it's not even in the top 5. Yeah. So you're asking, how many senators did we get for healthcare? 2?
3.
Okay. So we're asking for
20,
right? Mm-hmm. Now my math isn't great, but let's say we're asking for like 10 times the amount of people, a little less, for an issue that isn't nearly as popular with people as healthcare. And I just don't see that happening. I think it's a fool's errand. I think we should use our efforts in different ways.
But you did say, we're fighting for democracy and we need to be treating this as a fight for our lives. I think in many ways it is a fight for our lives on so many levels, whether it's, we're going to, us who are of Jewish descent, be killed by white nationalists, or healthcare, or people being kicked off of healthcare.
Guns.
Or gun terrorism. I mean, you name it, or underfunding the CDC and other things.
But getting rid of Trump isn't going to change any of that.
No.
But my point is that if he's not removed, and if there is a sham trial, which we're, as of this recording, we don't know yet, then that has to energize us even more to get rid of him at the ballot box next November.
You had asked about, Chuck, and what the Senate can be doing. The first step is actually getting 3 GOP across, okay? So just like the healthcare vote, we have to get 3, maybe 4 GOP across the line because they're going to potentially be able to help us write the Senate rules. That's absolutely realistic, okay?
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
That's possible.
That
We
can
actually need 4.
Oh, sorry, 4. I think that they're going to say, okay, look, I have to at least go back to the constituents and show that I did a fair trial. We may wind up having witnesses. What Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham are trying to do by avoiding the witnesses is they don't want a smoking gun here.
Right.
And
he is the smoking gun.
He is the smoking gun, but they also don't know what's going to come out of the mouths of these witnesses that could completely change things. So that's why they want to rush it through.
Yeah. And what's nice, though, about the trial in the Senate versus the House investigations and inquiry is that because the Chief Justice is presiding, they can't just say, oh, we're going to work it through the courts. If Robert says this person has to come under subpoena, then that person has to come.
That's a little bit of my point, is that, there are a number of steps that we have to go through before we get to needing these 20 votes. And the first step being getting the 4 people on board and changing the rules, and then actually getting witnesses. There's a lot of things that can impact decision making for those 20 people, but I get it.
I understand that, but 4 is still quite a bit. I mean, I'm guessing Susan Collins is probably going to be one since she just announced her re-election campaign and people are pumping a lot of money into her opponent because of Kavanaugh, deservedly so. Mm-hmm.
3.8 million, I think I last saw that they had actually pumped in for
a lot of lobster.
Yes. So let me run through the numbers really quick. Let me break it down here because I think that you'll start to see where I'm coming from. First of all, there's like different buckets that we can get these Republican GOP from.
Again with the buckets.
Yeah, I'm into buckets. Media barely mentions that there are 12 Senate GOP who have already voted against Trump when they cast their votes to end the national emergency.
I'm sorry, what national emergency?
Okay, people have forgotten about this, but do you remember that I think it was around March or so that
They're coming over. They're invading us.
Trump was doing the national emergency to try and get money for his wall because, I mean, what would Trump be without trying to get money for his wall?
Coming over.
There's so many national emergencies.
And the Senate, there's 12 GOP senators who actually said no. And you know what a lot of them used as excuses? It's going to set a precedent. And what happens when we have a Democrat who wants to shut down and call a national emergency? There may be some people who would say, I can't set the precedent of actually allowing this abuse of power to go through, because then when there's a Democrat who is doing this, it actually sets a precedent.
I agree with that in theory, and generally the senators are supposed to be more institutional than, say, the House. However, under the McConnell leadership, who has broken all of the norms.
Every precedent. Precedents don't mean anything anymore under with these Republicans.
So that's 12 GOP who have historically in this last year voted against Trump. So I want to have a little bit of faith there. Then you have 4 Republican senators are already retiring.
Yeah, but you had all those Republicans in the House that are retiring that still voted against impeachment, like Mark Hurd or whatever other.
Well, pretty much every Republican, because every Republican voted.
There's a big difference there. Of the 12 GOP who voted against Trump and the 4 who are retiring, one is an overlap, but you've got about 15 people right there. And then on top of that, you have those who would be potentially influenced by the fact that they have tough elections coming up, swing states, the Cory Gardners, for example. So he's not amongst those 15. So you have actually 23 senators who are up for re-election. And of those, I think there's about 8 of them, by my calculations, that are vulnerable Senate GOP who are up for re-election. You've got Cory Gardner of Colorado, Senator McSally of Arizona. So Senator McSally, she stepped in when John McCain passed away. So she's never actually been elected. Right. She was appointed. You've got Senator David Perdue of Georgia. You've got Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia. You've got Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. You've got Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Tom Tillis is very much a Trump person, but when it comes to re-election, all bets may be off. They play that differently. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Senator John Cornyn of Texas, and of course, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, who Susan Collins is one of the 12 who previously voted against Trump. So I don't have a tremendous amount of faith in Susan Collins. Many of us don't. But the reality is she might have gone against what we think she should have done with Brett Kavanaugh, but she did cross the party line for the healthcare vote. She voted against Trump in the national emergency, and she is the one who's currently talking about needing to have witnesses and a fair process.
It's just a facade. That's all just a facade of showing like, oh, we're fair. See, well, we want witnesses, yada, yada. It's all a facade.
I think because she's running for re-election, we can open up ourselves to a little bit more cynicism, especially since it's Susan Collins.
Yeah,
right.
Come on.
But the point is that any of these people, so whether it's the 12 GOP who have already have a record of voting against him, the 4 who are retiring, the 8 who are in swing states, then you've got Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. He has previously raised concern about the precedent it would set. They all talk about the precedent. Senator Susan Collins said, out of concern for the precedent an emergency declaration would set for the powers of the executive branch. Senator Mike Lee, when he voted against Trump, he's actually the most conservative of the senators who voted in this way. He said, for decades, Congress has been giving far too much legislative power to the executive branch. He's up for re-election in 2022 and has already once before voted against Trump and stood for the fact that they don't want to set the precedent. And in this case, they would be setting the precedent of the abuse of power and the obstructions. I mean, basically...
Yeah, they're fine with that.
No.
It's been 3 years of that, and they haven't said anything.
A vote is a different story. But anyway, I mean, look, you've got every single one of them. Look, we actually... I see what you're saying, Dan. I think that we sit there and we watch them not do anything, and we expect that that's the way it's going to be. But the reality is that a vote forces an action. You got many of these senators have voted against, like they've voted against Trump in terms of wanting to put sanctions on Russia, okay, despite the fact that everybody knows that Trump does not want to do anything that would upset poor little Putin. You've got this vote, the national emergency one. My point being that between the 12 GOP who have voted against Trump, the 4 retirees, the 23 GOP senators who are up for re-election, of which 8 of them are in very difficult states to win.
5 golden rings.
And so we've got the Mitt Romneys, we've got the Lisa Murkowskis. I'm not counting on any of these individually, but we raised our voices through social media in such a monumental way at the time of the healthcare vote that I think there are many who would argue that it was social media who influenced a Lisa Murkowski, a Susan Collins, and a John McCain to cross the line. Why not actually raise our voices and start tweeting and start pushing and start calling the people who have voted against Trump before, who are retiring? The thing about hope is that it actually stimulates the fight.
I love stimulation. I do. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, you like stormy stimulation. I think that the media is talking about everything being out of the realm of possibility, and that's taking away hope, which takes away the fight. I want us to actually fight and see, what do we have to lose by actually tweeting at these people and starting to apply pressure? We really have nothing to lose.
Preach!
Exactly. But you know what? We have a lot to lose if we don't do it. If we actually have a self-fulfilling prophecy and we don't even come to the fight, so to speak, the outcome is almost predetermined. Sure. And there's a lot of steps that can be taken. We can start to see witnesses.
I have to admit, you have moved me. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm not.
You know who moves me? Stormy Daniels.
I'm not as fatalistic as I was coming into this. However, do we have enough people in those states where they will actually have competitive races? If it's trending purple, but so let's say like Pat Roberts, Kansas isn't trending purple. Anything's possible, but I don't.
Yes.
I don't see any reason to put any faith one way or another into Pat Roberts, I know Mike Lee's not retiring, but he's extremely conservative. He's from, I think, Utah is the reddest or second reddest state in the union. Roger Wicker of Mississippi, I just don't have faith in it. So but what we do need to do is, in those states that are trending more purple, really have to get everyone there to call their senators.
Apply pressure.
We know the other side is going to apply pressure.
Exactly. What does it hurt to raise our voices? And I think we just have to remind people that removing Trump, I know that you said that it doesn't solve all of our problems, but it really will make a tremendous difference. That, to me, it's a national security issue. And I think that we really should try and get a momentum going to apply pressure, because we don't know how many will actually convert or who will convert. There will be surprises. But let's try. Let's have faith.
I 100% agree with that. And it would be the first time he's ever been held to account for anything. And it might also show Republicans that they are not immune to accountability. Also, Juliana Glover over at Political, who has worked for several Republicans, including George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, John Ashcroft, and Giuliani, has said, and again, this is also just as hypothetical as the discussion we've been having, that if it were a secret ballot, because the Senate sets its own rules, then they only need every Democrat and 4 Republicans to vote that it has to be a secret ballot, and then that might free up some Republicans to do that.
We don't lose anything here by applying the pressure. Okay. So really, my thing is about having hope and basically not losing faith. And I think that we need to be talking amongst ourselves that I don't care what the media says, how impossible it is. I'm still going to go and fight for my life here. The point is, what can we lose? Nothing. But we will lose a democracy if we don't do something. So don't let people tell us that we can't make a difference. Be persistent. Let's prove them wrong.
Call your
Try our
senator.
hardest.
Call everyone.
Absolutely.
Get everyone you know to call your senator. They only react to pressure.
Tweet.
Can I play the Star Spangled Banner during this when you're doing that?
Absolutely. I expect all of that.
In good messaging,
What do we got?
we have Jay Rosen, who writes, news stories currently framed as "we're so divided," quote, and can't agree on common set of facts, quote, should instead be cast as, how did the Republican Party arrive at this place? What is happening?
Is that what he said? Wait, Jerry said that?
I added the last Seinfeld part.
So basically, anytime that they say, how did we get here? The real message is, how has the Republican Party become so insane?
But something I talk about a lot is like, people are like, oh, we're so divided. And then people are like, oh, this impeachment, it's such a political thing. It's just the Dems that want, that voted for it. I mean, look how, look how improper and, bullshit it is. But, the fact of the matter is that one side really just sees actual laws being broken and an abuse of power and does nothing. And the other side is like, dude, you can't do this.
Well, one side believes in the Constitution and democracy, and one side doesn't.
Yeah, it's like we're living in the bizarro world. This is madness.
Okay, bad messaging.
I'm going to make the point that I think lack of messaging is actually one of the big things that Dems do all of the time and can be just as bad messaging.
All of the
I agree.
fucking time.
Dems often miss the opportunity to call out the lies. This week, the morning after impeachment, Lindsey Graham tweeted, if House Dems refused to send articles of impeachment to the Senate for trial, it would be a breathtaking violation of the Constitution, an act of political cowardice, and fundamentally unfair to President Trump. I mean, this is what they do all the time. They describe themselves and hurl it at the Republicans, and we don't call it out enough. The Dems and the mainstream media should have turned around immediately and schooled Lindsey.
Yeah,
That is chutzpah.
The irony.
That's beyond chutzpah.
The irony of a breathtaking violation of the Constitution. The Constitution does not say when articles of impeachment must be sent to the Senate for trial. However, in the procedure and guidelines for impeachment trials in the Senate, so in Senate documents, each senator is required to swear or affirm that he will do impartial justice according to the Constitution and laws, so help them God.
You know what? If we recorded tonight everything that we could school Lindsey Graham on, we'd be here for a month.
Yeah, we would probably be here.
We haven't been here for a month already?
We'd be here for another month. We'd be here till they impeached, Pence.
I think that's a little bit of the point too, is the Dems feel like if we had to call it out every time, we'll be exhausted. So they stopped calling these things out.
You got to call it out. You got to fight like you're a zebra and a fucking lion is trying to attack you. You have to fight like an animal, period. If you're not fighting like you're a fucking animal, you're losing, period.
Right. In an interview, Nancy Pelosi said that the reason that she didn't want to impeach George W. Bush over the Iraq War and so many other things, I mean, there's just so many other things, was because it would be too difficult. I mean, come on. Do you think that they would have done that? They impeached fucking Clinton over a personal matter.
But
Yeah, no, I did lie to those people, the FBI guys.
well, I mean, the thing is though, it's what's not hard is to put side by side that they're supposed to swear that they will do impartial justice, and then just put on the clip of Mitch McConnell literally on TV and talking about the Senate trial and saying, I'm not impartial about this at all. I can't do the voice.
Russia, if you're listening, take him back! Russia, if you're listening, take him back! Russia, if you're listening, take him back! Russia, if you're listening, take him back!
And that's it for this week. We'll be off next week, but we'll return after New Year's.
We'll see you in the next decade, everybody.
As always.
Is it the next decade?
It is the next decade, isn't it?
No, there's no year zero. So then
We're in the 20s.
It's 2020, yeah. Well,
We're in the 20s.
No, well,
Yeah, but
That's the start of the
wasn't that-
decade.
no, well, 20
big
will be
deal?
the end of the. And anyway, we like to thank our supporters.
Yeah, the
Please
end.
go to
anchor.fm/epotabusunum and become a supporter today. America will appreciate
We
it.
will thank you for it.
That too.
Now, if you can't remember all that, look at there's
It's in the show notes.
If it's literally in the show notes, click on it. There will be a link, and you go on and support us. We have 2 supporters now.
Woo!
And it's very thrilling. If you like our show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you downloaded the thing you're listening to right now. Spread the word. Word of mouth is great. We're at ePotibus on Twitter and Gmail. That's epotibus@gmail.com. We'd love your feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? Any suggestions? Let us know any topics. Tweet at us, email us, do all the things. Send a smoke signal. We read those. Remember, messaging is only half the battle. Mobilization is the other half. One easy thing to do is call your congressperson. Email is okay, but calling is most effective, guys.
And senators.
And call your senators too.
Yeah.
And call the people who aren't your senators, like these Republicans. See if you can move the needle on that. We're also looking for an intern to help out. Our standards are reasonable.
We put a lot of work into this and reviving Dan.
I'm exhausted.
So we really do appreciate anything that you can do. Please spread the word. And we'd like to try to expand it. So maybe we could do some of those deep dives again, maybe an interview or 2.
Let us know what you like. But, we've got some interviews coming. I'll say this. We have an interview with the heckler coming. That's all we're going to say.
Merry Impeachment, everyone, and happy holidays.